How's it going, guys? Here, Public Safety Network. I decided to kind of rehash the topic. I'd done a video on this about a year ago, and I kind of decided to do more of an updated version because I thought of a few more things since then that I think I would have liked to have added to that video. And that's going to be interacting with law enforcement from a security standpoint. We're going to kind of talk about different ways you can interact with law enforcement to both obviously look professional, but to also be able to assist them and help them do their job more effectively. And what that does, it kind of builds a rapport, which will actually be very helpful later down the line, especially if your company has had a contract in that area for quite some time. It makes things run a little bit smoother. But you guys haven't already, go and hit the subscribe button, like the video below, comment. I love when you guys interact in the comment section, and I can kind of going back and forth with you guys. I actually really love that, so keep doing that, guys. So one of the biggest things that when it comes to interacting with law enforcement, first is knowing when is it appropriate to call law enforcement. From a security standpoint, we know that security is predominantly we are there to enforce the policies of our client or company. For people, whether it's employees, whether it's visitors, vendors, whoever, we're there to pretty much enforce policy. Although in some cases we can intervene when it comes to criminal acts. A lot of times if it involves possible injury or some type of active threat to the area at which where our post is at. But generally, most security is generally avoid getting into criminal matters, and that's where the police kind of come in. You generally will call the police when things have escalated beyond what security is capable of handling, both resources-wise and obviously legal-wise. So generally, this will come in the form of subtype of criminal or prosecutorial offense. So obviously, when to call law enforcement is kind of the big thing, but also what method should you call law enforcement? Most police departments have both a non-emergency line, and then obviously 911 would be considered the emergency line. Not every call to law enforcement is going to be 911 priority. So kind of knowing when is appropriate is very important. I can't give you an exact rundown of say, yes, you call 911 in this situation, we call non-emergency in this one. Your supervisor, manager, post orders, things like that should give you kind of an overview about when, situations that you should be calling law enforcement. The biggest one thing I can tell you is if it involves, some type of violence, an active crime going on, or anything like that, that is generally going to be a 911 call, because it's at that point it's imperative that law enforcement get to the scene to be able to either stop the crime in progress or apprehend the people involved. So if it involves any type of crime in progress, especially a major crime in progress, that is going to be something that you're going to call 911. The non-emergency line is generally going to be for things like trespassers or crimes that have already happened, but that still a report still needs to be generated. Those tend to be a little bit lower priority, and so those are going to kind of get backlogged on the call logs. But it's still important that the police get there so that at least some type of report can be generated. So that's kind of an overview for that. The next one is going to be handing over information to law enforcement to kind of assist them in wherever their investigation kind of leads them. One of the biggest things is obviously if you're the person who called, you most likely were a witness to the crime. And so having that information kind of ready to go, your information particularly, your name, company you work for, email address, phone number, even maybe your direct supervisor, those are all things that law enforcement's probably going to need for their report. And so having kind of on hand ready to go for when law enforcement shows up is going to show that you're a professional, that you kind of understand the processes that they're going to deal with, and it makes the interaction go a lot more smoother and a lot of times a lot more pleasant. Also, have anything pertinent to the incident itself. So obviously, if you're a place that has things like CCTV footage or you took photographs of the scene or anything like that, those are also things they're going to want to know about, and making sure that you can get them copies, via email, or obviously if you can burn them an actual physical copy, if it's, camera footage or things like that, that's going to be an immense help to them. Also including things like if it's involving a particular person, if you've had incidents with the person in the past, having that information or records on file may also help them in their however far they decide to pursue this, whether it's just taking a report all the way up to obviously booking someone and taking them to jail. The next big thing is also knowing kind of when it's time to kind of let law enforcement take the lead. Obviously, you've called the police because there is some type of incident that is beyond your capability of handling, and so you've called law enforcement to kind of come in and assist. Usually, however, when law enforcement comes on scene, they become the primary, and they kind of take over the scene, and some security tend to get into a little bit upset about it, because they feel like they're kind of pushed aside and not taken seriously. And a lot of times it's nothing on you personally. It's just that when they come in, they have their own procedures and obviously legal matters that they have to attend to, that necessarily you don't necessarily need to be a part of, and so they kind of they don't necessarily see you as a distraction, but they want to kind of be able to focus on that. And so a lot of times when when they come to you, they're going to ask for you kind of for a brief of what happened, and they're going to kind of jump into what they're going to do from a law enforcement standpoint. And the point I'm about to make is kind of also goes back to that giving them information. Just give it to them in plain English. Kind of tell them this is what happened, in chronological order. This is what I witnessed. This is what happened, and then you guys showed up. And so kind of giving to them to that is in layman's terms is going to be a lot easier for them, because then they don't have to sit there and try to sift through jargon and all of that. So kind of giving to them as straight as you possibly can is going to be the most helpful for them. And the last thing is asking to help them. And what I mean by that, this is going to mostly apply to when you come across some type of law enforcement activity that you didn't directly call them for. So whether you're walking on site and you happen to see some type of law enforcement presence, or even out in the everyday world, if you come across a law enforcement officer and you're unsure if they need help, obviously if they're in the middle of straight out fighting and scrapping with somebody, and they look like they need help, at that point it would be whatever your judgment to kind of step in and help them, because it's not practical at that point. But if there's a situation kind of happening and you think they may need help, you can always say, hey, officer, such and such with security, do you need any help? And a lot of times they'll either say yes, or they'll say no, I've got it from here, or maybe stand by, I might need your help in a little bit. And this is for a large variety of reasons. It's not necessarily because they think lesser of you, but because there's one of the things, it's a liability for them, because a lot of times in most states, if a law enforcement officer asks you to help them or tells you to help them, in a lot of places you are required to by law, and so that creates a liability for them, because now they're kind of assuming the risk of something happening to you by having you assist them. And so that's why a lot of people get trained, especially in security, that hey, don't necessarily help law enforcement unless you directly ask them if they need help. Again, outside of extenuating circumstances like they're actively fighting for their life. At that point, you would want to step in and help. But those are kind of some of the new points. I know one of the points is very similar to my last video, but I kind of decided to retouch a few things on that. But that's kind of the overview for the video this time. Again, thanks for watching, guys. I love the support that I've had going on. Obviously, seeing a big jump in subscribers, more views, watch time, and obviously the more you guys watch, like, subscribe, all of that, the more I'm going to do this. Especially if I'm kind of getting low on ideas, guys. So if you guys have any ideas yourself, go down throw in the comment section below, or go ahead and send them directly to my email, which is in the bio. But thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope everyone has a good day.